Hello and welcome to the North Bank Podcast. I'm your host, Holly, and I'm joined by Stef. Hello, Stef.
Hello, mate.
And Chris is not here, but Chris has sent in his views via WhatsApp, so we'll get to those at some point. Okay, a little subdued away end, Stef, I think. I can tell
Just
by
a
your
bit.
demeanour.
That is as much sleep deprivation as it is anything else.
Good to hear that, because I hope you're not too despondent after
No, I've got
first
enough perspective to get by.
Shall we just point out that you did remove yourself from the chat?
I certainly threatened to. You sent that message at a point where your I don't know, inane positivity was just the last thing I wanted to hear.
Do you know what that is? That's your version of my inane positivity after a result like that, is you constantly predicting we lose the game. It's pure self-protection. That's what it is.
Self-defense.
It's that's all it is. I have to, because, you know, once upon a time, that result would have destroyed my week. And then some. I just not in a place to be able to afford that level of, I don't know, I was going to be a bit mean to people who are affected like that, but it's just like I can't allow that to seep into every aspect of my day-to-day life. I just like it serves no purpose for me. However, I actually believe I still feel quite confident. But anyway, we'll come to that. I do have to caveat everything I say about the game with the fact I only started watching again on a midweek 30 minutes in. So I think, for balance, if you primarily talk us through the build-up, the pre-game in the ground, the first few minutes, the goal, and then the first 25, 30 minutes, up until the point I joined, and I need to take some credit for this, because I'll just go through some stats for you. On the 30-minute mark, we had one shot, they had 6. We had 32% possession, they had 68% possession. At full time, we had 10 shots to their 11, with 48% possession to 52. Now, I know game state dictates that. Our XG, far superior to their XG by the end of the game. We're plus 1.65, they're plus 1.14. So, to me, if you're just looking at the stats, it's a fair result. Would have possibly been a draw.
We had 5 shots on target to their 4.
Yeah.
Raya making fewer saves. Donnarumma making several saves. We had a goal ruled out for offside.
And it was offside. I've seen some people say it wasn't even offside. It was offside. The only puzzle was why it took so long, because it wasn't even a fine margin. It was like objectively 2 or 3 inches offside. Like you could see it, like it was with the naked eye. You didn't need to draw any lines. You could see it.
They have semi-automated offside.
I think it might have been to do with the number of bodies around as well. It was a pretty crowded penalty area at the time. But yes, it was a fine margin, as everybody loves to say, and it went against us in that moment. So I do have a maybe slightly unbalanced perception of the game itself, because I did not see the first 30 minutes. But anyway, look, I want you to reference the crowd as well, because there's been a lot of probably nonsense spoken online about the crowd. Now, I'll give you my perception perspective from watching it on the telly, and what people have said, that the noise was off the charts before the game, up to kickoff and the first few minutes, like unparalleled at the Emirates. That's what people were saying. But from the 30 minutes on, all I could hear were the PSG fans. It felt, to me, just watching on the telly, it felt, now I don't know where they got the microphones on the TV cameras, so I don't know, but it felt quite muted, and I was minded of the 2009 semi-final, where the atmosphere was fantastic up until about 4 minutes when United scored, and then it was just like pop, and the energy just fizzled out completely. Also, I want you to reference the tifo, because that's come in for rightly so, in my opinion. I'm not commenting on the fans. I wasn't in the stadium. You can do that, but the tifo was an embarrassment. Corporate Arsenal, I saw someone describe it as, and that summed it up for me. No hint. It's like, oh, we need to do that because people keep doing tifos. But you compare that to what goes on in Germany for bloody league games, and it's just an embarrassment. Anyway, I'll shut up. Talk us through up to 30 minutes.
Well, I'd got down there so early that a couple of people who I'd sort of planned to meet up, and they were caught in traffic. So because the sun was shining and everyone was just sort of milling about, I just had a quite sort of pleasant walk around the stadium, and it was lovely. There's a couple of new murals. There's one of Bergkamp, which I hadn't seen before, which I quite liked, and then saw a few pals sort of stood around themselves, having a drink and having a chat, and it was just sort of really pleasant. Everyone was nervous. Even everyone was excited by Madrid because of it was Madrid and they were coming, and we were the underdogs, and there was just a hint of expectation going into this game that was making everyone feel ever so slightly nervous. No one I spoke to was taking PSG lightly, but everyone was buoyed by what we had managed to do to Real Madrid over 2 legs. I thought the build-up, and especially, the singing in the concourse, even out on the stands in the run-up to, you've got your singing North London Forever, Champions League theme and everything else. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really loud. I think it probably was as loud, if not louder, than Real Madrid because of the fact that it was a semi-final, and that's even without those sort of extra add-ons from the Gunnosaurus walking through the concourse and singing and dancing with us. It was all very sort of jubilant, and everyone was well up for it. So the scenes in the celebration beforehand were great. Game starts. PSG are the best team I've seen in a long time. Few people have said, oh yeah, it was like Man City sort of in their pomp. There's a machine tool precision about Man City. They're just kind of a relentless, just kind of almost, I don't
Automaton
know.
team.
Automaton. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. There's something mechanical that's they can play good football. I think the early iteration of a Guardiola team at City certainly could. But then you have players like David Silva who are a bit more elegant on the ball, perhaps. De Bruyne's one of the best players that have ever played in the Premier League. But he's a straight line runner. He's the kind of guy. It's one through ball pass. It's not intricate play, and they clearly, as has been shown this season, they've relied quite a lot on Rodri as a stopper before that kind of Fernandinho. That's not to say that the other players around them don't work hard, but the swarm that PSG had, and the bravery they had in pressing high, reminded me of the great Barcelona side from around sort of 2010, 2011.
Who's their manager?
Their manager. So that was Guardiola, wasn't it? And Luis Enrique, obviously, who then followed on from Guardiola at Barcelona. There's clearly an identity there, and PSG were at it. I don't know, and look, I've seen lots of videos analysing various minute details about what led to their goal and what led to various chances. I don't think we did a huge amount wrong, to be honest. I think the reason I do sort of have perspective and am not angry or doomsaying is because, and I've always said this, I'm always way more angry if I feel like Arsenal haven't tried or they just don't care. I can't feel that. I just think on the night PSG were a level above.
Well, their goal came after 26 passes.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's not something that happens to us often at home.
And it's that nature, we'll get into the fact that, a couple of players were perhaps moved around to what we've been used to like recently. But 26 passes pulling you back and forth, it's no wonder that eventually they sort of pocketed a bit of space, and it just, I just couldn't help but be mesmerised and really impressed. With regards what it did to the atmosphere, I've seen all this stuff online, and there are a couple of things that are obviously disappointing. That tifo is it's so underwhelming. So underwhelming for all the build-up, and the fact that, look, I wasn't overly a fan of the designs that the Ashburton Army came up with myself personally, but they had way more about them than just a cannon.
It was an identity with the team, not just corporate Arsenal.
Just nothing. I know.
And it didn't even hang properly. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Yes, it wasn't great. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, first time you do it, Champions League semi-finals, not the time. The pre-match stuff was better for Madrid. And all it was coloured plastic bags on a chair. Because everyone was involved. The Thierry Henry tifo, albeit small, said something, meant something. Make it happen. Fine, that's a banner. Arteta's been plugging that as much as he can, and he's obviously trying to make that stick, like the trust the process stuff right at the start of his tenure. But that, tifo was underwhelming. Because the match was about to begin, I don't know if it was fully like processed or understood by everyone, but afterwards it was very much, that really was crap, wasn't it? So that's very disappointing. And the damning indictment for me was, obviously, there was an aerial shot as the tifo's up for the game last night against PSG, compared to the one against Madrid. One of them looks like a semi-final in the Champions League, and the other one just doesn't. So, and the optics, the club should be all about the optics. You'd think they'd get that, they'd understand that, but no, sadly, it wasn't there. The flip side to that, though, is we're bang up for it. We're in a confident, buoyant mood. And then PSG start like an absolute freight train. They're everywhere. They're so much everywhere. They look like they've got an extra player on the pitch. Because they're swarming in little packs to shut down. And we're trying to bait them by playing out. And we could beat a pass or two, but then gets kind of stuck. And then go back and then go long, and then we lose the ball and it recycles. To be analytical, it's fine. But it was relentless.
Can I just jump in? Like, shouldn't we have been prepared for that? That's how they started against Villa. That's how they started against Liverpool.
Right. So then I was reminded of, and I said this because you mentioned last time when we played Real Madrid, there was a moment after 20, 30 minutes where you could see it in the players, and you're absolutely right, where our players thought, well, hang on, this Madrid side, they're not as good as we maybe thought. And Madrid, conversely, said, well, hang on, these guys are better than we thought. I think the roles have been reversed for this PSG game. We knew to expect, look, they were going to be high pressing and they were going to be intense. But boy, were they intense. It was unreal. I've not seen intensity like that from players, and the ball sticking. Vitinha's the shortest and smallest player on the pitch, and he's running the game. He was exceptional. Kvaratskhelia, who I don't like because he felt a bit divey and very petulant, but that's with my Arsenal hat on. If I take that off, wow, what a game he had. Desiree Doué, what a silky forward. But anyway, my point was, they score the goal. No supporters of any club in England are going to react any differently. I know, because I've been up and down the country to all the away grounds. The culture in England is to react to the game. That whole ultras, capo, led by a drummer and a guy with a megaphone thing, not even watching the game. That's not the English fan culture. That PSG away end, and I know because because I came in from a slightly different direction. I walked down from Finsbury Park and I met all the PSG fans kettled by the police outside the Arsenal station. They were lovely and polite and very calm, and it was all very subdued and polite. They were all young, middle-aged men. Obviously, there were a few exceptions here and there, but generally, considering, I go to the Arsenal away games, I went to the Bernabeu as well, there was way more variety in age and background in the Arsenal team, way more women in the Arsenal away end. Those little factors change the nature of the crowds. And in the continent, whether it's Italy, particularly Germany, as we see quite a lot as well, and France, they just do things as a fan base very differently to us. We react to the game. And everyone would say, the atmosphere was gone. And it wasn't that the atmosphere was gone, it's that the atmosphere suddenly became tense. That was a crowd full of tension. There were still songs being sung, but not with the vociferousness and the joy. Real Madrid at home, because of the way it unfolded, and because it's Real Madrid, and because Declan Rice scores those wonder free kicks, it just builds and builds and builds. But that's what we do. If it's good, we build. If it's not, we do struggle with it. And it's just tension.
And we entered that game with more expectation than against
And there's
Real
more
Madrid.
expectation. Yeah, exactly.
And that's
exactly.
played its role.
Look, as soon as we conceded, it was like a couple of years ago. The crowd straight away, come on, it's only a few minutes, early doors, let's go again. So they were back up. But it was tense. And the worry, that's the thing, most of it was nervous tension because we knew that PSG could get more if they wanted because they were on it. It took us a while to get our foothold in the game. Like you say, you joined at the moment when we were starting to, it was an even contest really from then. If not, maybe we were slightly edging it in the general play. But again, game state might play into that. Who knows? So, yeah, it is what it is. And, all this thing about the lack of atmosphere, it's nonsense. No other English fan base would have reacted any different.
I think, absolutely. That's why I've not been judging the atmosphere of the crowd, having experienced it in the 2009 semi-final in person, see what it does. You've got to sit back and think, right, okay, bloody hell. But I think the problem was that we played the occasion and not the game. And it took us, Arteta spoke of this mystical or magical, mythical, whatever it is, tweak he made after 20-25 minutes, and from that point on, and he may well have done. I wouldn't put it past him. He micromanages to great effect as and when he does so. Like, how many games have we played this in the last 3 years where there's been an injury after about 20 minutes in the first half, and all the players are over to the touchline and getting instructions from Arteta based on his kind of observations on the first 20 minutes, and maybe that happened again last night. But I was worried. The one thing that had me more confident before the game started was I felt that we would not play the occasion, that we'd play the game and we'd play our game, and I just don't think we did. Now, I think Partey's absence had a massive role to play in that, and the timing of the PSG goal, massive. It took us a while. We didn't have the shield there, Partey. We had Rice out of position. We had Marino out of position as he's become accustomed, and Trossard further forward out of position. He's not a number 9, and there were too many moving pieces there to get back into place. And it was 4 minutes in, 3 or 4 minutes in, and maybe Rice could have been a little bit more aware quicker. Marino could have seen it a little bit quicker that Rice wasn't picking up, covering Dembele, and moved himself across quicker. But those things wouldn't have been issues had Partey and Rice been playing in their regular positions. That's you got me. It's impossible to say that or to know that rather. But defensively, we're generally really solid. When I heard about the goal and everybody eulogising about the goal, like, he got lucky. he scuffed that finish off his shin, and it bounced and went in off the post, the only place it could have gone in. A bit like the Eze goal at the weekend for Palace against us from the corner. I'm like, yes, okay, they pulled us apart quite well. And 26 passes, I'm not, we're recording this on Wednesday night, and Barcelona it was 3-3 Barcelona into Milan last I checked, but who knows what the score is now. But you look at Lamine Yamal's goal this evening, and that's a drooling finish, or a finish to drool over. Whereas Dembele's was a scuff shot. I mean, I'm looking at that through my Arsenal.
Well, this is it.
Perhaps,
I just want to look. We are going to chat Arsenal. Is what we do, but I think there is a point at which all those are true. I want to definitely talk about the Partey factor and the other players sort of involved, because we will naturally do a little bit of soul searching as to what we could have done differently in those early exchanges. But at the same time, I just think PSG are that good. And yeah, you can talk about scuff finishes. I mean, the one that I always think about is, do you remember Rooney's overhead kick in the Manchester derby? I mean, it hits his shin, but who cares? That is a spectacular goal. And I just think the manner at which they were playing, and that's why, end of the game, there were even sort of comments between a couple of people. I say, well, actually, we come out of this 1-0, okay, fine, you sort of take it. It was disappointing because we had a couple of good opportunities, of course, but at the same time, the way that first period unfolded, it was bewildering.
It could have been a lot worse than 1-0, couldn't it?
So much worse.
I mean, Raya made a fantastic save. The rebounded shot off the post would have been offside had it gone in, so it wouldn't have counted. Timber, for me, got lucky. It was a penalty. He could have been yellow carded comfortably inside that first 30 minutes. I think he's lucky to get with it. The referee was pretty poor, but not biased poor. Not
biased poor, just weirdly
generally poor.
Officious about some things, inconsistent about others.
Hakimi got a yellow card and could easily. He then brought down Martinelli, and he could easily have been second carded because who got the yellow card for us for something far less than that?
Well, Saka got it for dissent.
No, he booted the ball away.
Oh, Trossard.
Saka got it for booting the ball away, and then that was it. But I mean, I'm going to defend the referee here. He didn't give the decision. It was the assistant who flags for, and it was never ever a free kick. And Saka was clean through, and his frustration booted the ball away. But I'm pretty sure that only a red card in the second leg would keep any player out of the final. I think a yellow card in each of the two semi-finals isn't enough to warrant a suspension for the final. So he's not walking a tightrope as such. So that so yes, absolutely. I mean, I know after 4 minutes and certainly after 30 minutes, every Arsenal fan comment I was reading on social media was saying, "I'll take this. Let's get to. I'll take 1-0. I'll take 1-0." And then we had that from 30 minutes till, I don't know, for the rest of the game until the last 10 minutes, when I think we obviously fatigued somewhat. Like we had our first substitution, 80 minutes, and it's a right back for a right back. And we can talk about. So look, let's talk about the team.
Right, Arsenal.
Yeah. We Timber right back, Myers Lewis-Skelly left back, and the reason I'm starting with those two is because we talked about the absence of Partey and options to replace him. Now, we all thought the obvious response Arteta would make is the one he did make. He would drop Rice back, drop Marino back, and play Trossard through the middle. I did put forward another alternative in the last pod, but I know that there are, unless Myles Lewis-Skelly into midfield, for me, he was our best player. He was really strong. You might have said he was very silky, but he did nothing much of note. Myles Lewis-Skelly had him pretty much in his pocket, and he did step into midfield a lot. And Martinelli should have taken his chance. He should have scored that goal. He telegraphed where he was putting it. If he's going to do that, then then trick the goalkeeper and go near post when the keeper's already dived. It was telegraphed. Didn't like it at all. Again, a case of not head up. And it was a good save, but it's a save you would expect your goalkeeper to make. But the assist from Miles Lewis-Skelly was just something else. Like a Park Cruyff turn in his own half, charging past a couple of players, and then a beautiful precision pass for Martinelli to run onto. Lovely, I mean, brilliant. If Martinelli had scored, everybody would be eulogising over the role that Miles Lewis-Skelly had in it. Do you chuck an 18-year-old into the party position in his first game in that role in the first team in a Champions League semi-final? Well, I can understand why you wouldn't.
But this one, he's already proven that he's a different kind of 18-year-old.
Yes, absolutely. So, that's... And so Timber could have gone to left back and Ben White could have played at right back. Now, Ben White clearly not fit enough to start the game, perhaps. So that was an option. Calafiori took part in the open training session, but didn't make the squad. So that would have been another alternative. I wouldn't have played Zinchenko at left back. So I maybe Arteta was hamstrung, no pun intended, by player availability. So what's your kind? So for me, too many players out of position, muting their own effect.
Yeah.
In their normal positions.
I mean, in terms of just team selection, you're absolutely right. Everyone knew that was pretty much the way the team was going to be set up, and I think it was Lewis Ambrose on Blue Sky, who sometimes writes and appears on Arseblog. He sort of pointed out that sometimes it is about when you play teams. When we played PSG in the group stage, they were barely getting going. Dembele was basically hooked for disciplinary reasons, and a few of the young players were really kind of starting out. And now they are up to speed and purring and on the ascendancy. Whereas while we're still very hard to beat because we just have a higher floor now, missing the likes of Havertz or even
we missed 3 of our first 11. So Gabriel, Partey, and Havertz. And then PSG are missing nobody.
Nobody, exactly. And also, even the players that are starting, Saka's come back after a long layoff, although he looks quite good. Martinelli similarly, although again he looks very good. But the others have had a lot of minutes, a lot of concentration. Kivior is kind of fulfilling a role that he's doing, but there was a telling moment, especially at the start of the second half, when some of the substitutes came to warm up, and they were all academy players. They were all youth players, which just showed the paucity of choices that we had in order to really change the game. And when you think arguably if not one of the most senior players on the bench is Raheem Sterling, given how his loan's gone, you can see the issue. That said, we could see it, and again, I can argue it both ways, but actually I was disappointed with the timings of the substitutions. I felt like Arteta waited too long, and it might be a case of, because of the lack of options on the bench, and because substitutions might be viewed as a way to kind of go for the game, go for that goal, try and get the equaliser, when even we as fans were sort of saying, well, actually, if we come out of here with 1-0, it's not the end of the world.
Got, yeah.
Stay in.
2-0's a different story.
Stay in the game. 2-0's different. Yeah, exactly. So the fact that it's only one goal does make a difference. So I can see why. But at the same time, one of those subs was Ethan Nwaneri, who's only really going to be an attacking sub. White for Timber, maybe I get that, okay.
Timber, I think, was carrying a knock.
He had gone down earlier on in the game, little knock. We took the opportunity, as we do, to have a good little team huddle around Arteta at that point. But Nwaneri's not going to do anything I think he got 6 minutes if you add in the injury time. That's nothing.
He came on for Odegaard.
Who had a
For me, it was his worst performance of the season, in a season full of pretty below average performances for him.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
And it's been noted by some very sage heads online, like a conversation that, do we need to have a conversation about him at the moment? Because he's not. I mean, I think he starts in Paris, and we hope he puts in a performance. But what was it like in the grounds with regards to him?
Nothing in particular said. No player stood out for criticism. It was a lot of anger that often football fans direct was at the referee, and again for his fussiness. It was the fussiness with what he did. I lost count of the amount of times that he made an Arsenal player go back a few yards to take a throw in, and you're just thinking, really? It was just daft. The delay in the VAR. No player really came in. It was a collective thing. If anyone had anything to say, it was more about upping the intensity. It was more about the speed with which we do things, whether that's passing the ball, whether it's running off the ball. How we're all 60,000 coaches, from our seat directing the players at what to do. So everyone's got their sort of thing. And
do you think it was a case of stick or twist? Not game state, but tie state, if you like. Like, we're still in it. We're clearly below par. We're not playing as well as we can with the players that we've got available. No. We know that, and PSG are playing very well. They're incredible. So we know that we're not going to play as well as this again, as badly as this again in the second game. We know we're going to get better. So do we just ensure that we're still in the tie when we've got our best 11?
Probably for the last half of the second half, that's probably true. If that Marino goal had stood, who knows? Would PSG have come out? Would we have just seen out a 1-1 draw? Look, we're talking about if, buts and maybes. And I think ultimately the psychology of that final quarter of the game probably played out the way it did because we didn't necessarily want to be 2 goals down trying to chase an equaliser. Yeah, that would have been... I understand the conservatism of that. It was just frustrating because, like you say, that first 20, 30 minutes, that we know we're better than that. But at the same time, boy, were they something else. So once we'd gotten over it psychologically, whether, Arteta had made that analytical and tactical change, whether the players had just started to settle and believe and do all those sorts of things. Because once we did grow into the game, I thought Marino was excellent. Rice was better.
He was good, yeah.
He was good. Although I'm feeling, when we signed Rice, in my head, he was the Partey replacement. He was the 6. He was all things for it. Not anymore. No. Not anymore at all.
Is Zubimendi the 6? He's not the 6 either.
I can see now what we lose. Rice has got so much more to his game than I even realised he had. And I thought he might be worth 100 million quid as a player. And he might, as we say, he's worth more. Zubimendi, I don't know. I just don't know enough about him. And there's questions to be had. I know there's a huge movement online, wanting the club to not renew Thomas Partey for his contract renewal. But we have to replace someone in that position. Is Lewis Skelly ready to take that over? If we buy this Hato from Ajax, look, that again is a question for the summer. Yeah. For next week, Partey's back, so we're back to that settled formation.
Yeah, provided nobody gets injured against Bournemouth on Saturday.
God.
We know which team we're going to put out next Tuesday. It's next Tuesday, isn't it? I'm assuming. No, Wednesday.
Wednesday. They switch days.
And just on a nod to the other semi-final, Lautaro Martinez did go off just before half-time, and his reaction told me that it's not a short-term injury. Could be like a hammy again. Barcelona have made a couple of changes as well. I think they've got a couple of defensive issues. The game's mental. It's 3-3. I mean, but I actually do think the winner of the tournament comes from our side.
Just trying to imagine how I would have felt if yesterday was 3-3. I don't think I'd have a voice at this minute.
Depends on whether the 6th goal was our goal or their goal.
That is a very good point.
even though it shouldn't. But psychologically, for the fan, it would make a difference.
Yes.
And in this case, Barca have equalised.
Yep, it's 3-3. Can I ask a question? Before I say what I thought of the player during the game, how did Trossard's performance look on TV?
You're asking the wrong person. Because I have seen some people say he had a really tidy game. I mean, for me, he was like... I think of the two chances we had, Martinelli's was the more
Guilt-edged.
scoreable. Yes, absolutely.
Although the better save came from Donnarumma. From Trossard's chance.
That's what I mean. So
Okay.
that's what I mean. I think the Trossard miss wasn't as culpable as the Martinelli one. I would have. Having said that, if you just do a freeze frame of where Trossard is in the best moment in that move, he should be scoring. That's simple as that. He's not a number 9, and he's not a number 9, but he was playing number 9. How much can we fault him? I don't know. There was a paucity of options. Who else was going to play there? You could have kept Marino there by shifting around Lewis Skelly into the midfield. We didn't have Jorginho available either, so that we were kind of... And Ben White, how fit is Ben White to start the game and play the full game, and to allow Timber to go and play at left back? So I understand why it ended up with Trossard playing number 9, but no, for me, he's a 5 out of 10.
What bothered me more than anything was his work or lack of off the ball. He doesn't sprint. The defender doesn't really feel under pressure when he's pressing, and it's not pressing. It has all the intensity of a jacket potato. It was just lackluster, and I know that's probably not his game, but at this level, PSG showed there are no luxuries. There's no strolling. You don't get away with it unless you're holding a position, which he isn't. Because he's the forward, he should be that first line of defence in order to keep them pegged back. But he didn't. He offered no resistance in that. So that then meant Marino's on the back foot, Rice is on the back foot, everyone else. It was so disappointing. And it's the one reason I cannot get on Odegaard's back.
Yeah.
Because he does give you so much more. Of course we want to see him create more and be more inventive, and that's not quite clicking at the moment. But you cannot, like we used to say about Martinelli,
exactly. I was just
cannot fault what
off
he gives
ball,
you off the ball, which for now, for this moment, we absolutely need. Because it's not like you can do that thing of going, okay, right, you're on, I want 50, 60 minutes, just blow the tank. And then I'll bring someone on for another half an hour who can really pick up the intensity. We don't have that on the bench. Waneri's not a runner in that same sort of sense either. Sterling clearly isn't anymore, or maybe never was. I just...
Yeah, we are limited.
We are limited, yeah. So it's that,
I've written it down here. In the preview pod, after the Madrid home game, 3-0, I referenced Clarence Seedorf and something he said to Declan Rice on the pitch, post-match interview, where he misunderstood something Rice had said, but he questioned, he said, you want to win the tournament, don't you? Like, he got the impression from Rice that this was the destination, beating Real Madrid at home in the first leg of a quarter-final. And this is Clarence Seedorf, was he 4-time winner of the Champions League? You listen to what this guy says about
absolute
mentality.
Legend.
So last night, I'm going to quote something he said after the game. Winning some matches is one thing. Winning the Champions League is another. I think the fear of winning kicked in today. They need a shift in mentality to elevate themselves. Now that's him pitch side watching the game, and it's something that we've within our podcast here have argued. You two have argued against me, or we've debated this. Destination versus journey, and enjoy the moments as they happen. And does the fact we didn't win the league diminish the Bournemouth moment? That kind of thing. For me, it does, because I want us to win. I don't care if we don't have any Bournemouth moments if we win the league. Like, who would I rather be now? A Liverpool fan sitting there having won the league with no big moment in the season, or an Arsenal fan 2 seasons ago think, yeah, but we scored in the 97th minute against Bournemouth to win the game 3-2. Woo! I'm like, no, I'd want to win the league. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, and that's my worry about the first 30 minutes yesterday. That the mentality was wrong, and I didn't think it would be. I was surprised that I think they were too emotional, and they played the game, and that emotion probably drained and fatigued their legs in the last 10 minutes as well, and that may have played a role in because PSV should have scored a second goal in the dying embers of that game. I mean, the guy who hit the crossbar would be kicking himself, like he should have buried it. Was it Barcola? No.
Yeah,
I don't know who hit the crossbar.
So. I don't know.
So I just think that's interesting that Clarence Seedorf he spotted it, he noted it after, and it's something that's been gnawing away at me as well. I want us to only ever be happy when we've won the title, won the final, won the league. You know, everything should be right. Okay, that's brilliant. Enjoy that. Right, we go again. Because that's what the Invincibles was like. That's what that team, Wenger's successful teams, they had that winning mentality, and it's not winning like Clarence Seedorf made the distinction. Not winning some games mentality, but winning the tournament mentality. Henry had it, Bergkamp had it, Vieira had it. Yeah, they enjoyed their wins, like as they went along. But and I'm not signing up with the celebration police. I promise. But
and it's that fine balance, isn't it? And again, it's understanding that both things can be true. That you do enjoy the wins along the way, but it is about where you up at the. I think both things can be true for them.
But the risk is that they're not both true.
Yes, sure. Because interestingly, I don't know who, but I've seen so much stuff in the last 24 hours in which I've not really slept. And one person even posted out somewhere that I saw saying that even this will be useful to the team, that as it evolves and as it learns, they'll remember that feeling that it's not about, whether it is the fear of winning or whether it is the feeling of kind of job done or something. They know now that actually there needs to be a refocusing of what's going on. But then all it reminded me of was the successes coming incrementally, that we're getting to a new level each time, and it's just bit by bit and part by part, and it's so tantalisingly close. It's second in the league. It's semi-finals of the Champions League. It was even semi-final of the Carabao Cup, wasn't it? Okay, it's nearly there, and I don't know. I don't think it's like you say. I don't think it's a footballing thing now. We've shown it's not. We can be the best team on almost any day. We weren't yesterday. Not by a long shot, really, because PSG was so much better at a moment when it counted, and they got that goal. But yeah, is it a psychological thing? Is it just those couple of weak spots in the team that allow that to manifest? I don't know.
Let me read Chris's take. So I'll read verbatim his message. I don't think he swears. Okay. PSG, echoes of Man United 2009, bubble bursting early doors. PSG clearly a notch above Real Madrid in terms of team ethic. They bossed first 20 minutes, then we slowly got into it, but never at our fluent best. Frustrating how Partey missing affected other positions, didn't get the best out of Rice or Marino. Odegaard a worry. I mean, again, he's just echoing, pretty much what we've said. Creative option when he's not doing it on the inside lanes is give it wide to Saka and hope he does something. And Saka was quite isolated because Odegaard's game with the ball wasn't where it should have been, and Timber was really on his heels because of that Georgian fella.
Kvaratskhelia. Saka went looking for the ball later on as well.
Yeah.
He did drift inside, which I don't mind. You've got to vary that play. Keep them guessing, because they were doubling up on him and doing a number on him as well. And that was what was interesting. When Neri came on for Odegaard, Saka took up the Odegaard position. So it was all about trying to bamboozle. But I wanted that 10 minutes before.
Too late, yeah. It was too late.
Too late.
He continues, generally very impressed by PSG, deserve the win.
Very.
I'm like, they deserve the win. I think a draw would have been a fair result anyway. But I didn't see the first 30 minutes in the flesh, so okay. And just hope party return can bring back some of the quarter-final magic. Yep, I think that's brilliant. So, final word for you, Steph, is can you give us 2 or 3 reasons to be confident? No's not an option.
Yes, you can, because PSG have lost games this year. They lost at home in the league for the first time this season, just previously to playing us. They've also done a bit iffily in second legs, in a roundabout way, because they've put themselves in the right position. This is the thing. So it's sort of a double-edged point that I'm going to make, where they absolutely battered Liverpool in the first leg of their game. Was that round of 16, I want to say, maybe?
It was straight after the group stage, yeah.
Right. That first game, they were at home at the Parc des Princes, absolutely battered Liverpool, but could not get the ball in the net. Alisson, who plays for Liverpool, obviously, was just having a brilliant game. He made several absolutely top-draw saves, only for Liverpool then to score the late goal, put them 1 up. And then almost the opposite is true of the second leg, where PSG were under the cosh quite a lot from Liverpool, and yet PSG are the ones that were 1 up. So, yes, they can absolutely perform brilliantly across 2 games, but they haven't always. They were up ahead for Villa. Was it 3-1 in the first leg?
I think it was, yeah. And then they were 2-0 up in the first game.
And 2-0 up at Villa Park, and then lost 3-2 to Villa. So it's about getting at that team as well. They're not impervious to it. We will have Partey back, and barring any horror situations against Bournemouth at the weekend, that is the setup that works best at the moment with the players available. I love these caveats. I feel like I'm talking with brackets all the time. But it gives us so much more of a balance. He is a player that's going to snuff out danger just as well, if not better than, obviously, Declan Rice. But Declan Rice is going to give you more than maybe Merino does in that left 8 position, and Merino's definitely going to give you more than Trossard does as a number 9. It's just better balance. It's the spine of the team that's just going to seem better from our point of view. And we've shown we can do it. We've lost 3 games away all season. Once at the San Siro against Inter, where it was a very much UEFA handball penalty conceded. And then we've lost to Bournemouth and Newcastle in the league away, although we've got Anfield to come in a couple of weeks.
And Southampton.
Oh, yes, shouldn't be discounted. There was a brilliant stat doing the rounds that PSG have, since the new year, PSG have beaten more English clubs than Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester. It's good, isn't it?
Well, yes and no.
Yes and no. Very much yes and no. So there's absolutely hope there. And also the fact that it's only 1. We're so... I mean, when we thought we'd scored, it was the relief and the joy. And the fact that we were... It was also the fact that we were on top. It wasn't a sucker punch. It was
earned, yes.
It was earned. Yeah. It looked like we were getting a foothold in the game, and we were really taking it to them. And it was early in the second half. So it's a funny one, isn't it? Because you score just before half-time, and you feel like that takes the wind out of their sails. But they also have half-time to sort of work out what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Whereas if you score just after half-time, it's like, crap, now what do we do? So it was such a shame that was taken away. No one was particularly disputing at it. We do that train run thing and then try and get onside. So you're taking a risk with being offside. It was just so annoying it took so long.
Yes, it was offside.
Yeah, so look, there's hope.
And
There's hope.
PSG. What will PSG's be? What will PSG's attitude and approach be to the second leg? I think they'll come at us.
I think they'll. You don't have to think that. That's what they do.
Yeah, you know that. Yeah,
they are like Barcelona tonight. That's what they do. They do not deviate from that. The plan B, if they have one, because everyone will say, "Oh, that's all they do. They haven't got a plan B." No, plan B is by game state. The way they start any game, press high, intensity, don't just strangle the opposition, basically. Starve them of possession and just be ruthless in your attacks. And it's about volume of shots at the end of the day, which is why it was quite telling. I was surprised at the low XG. Not that I put a massive amount of stock in that sort of thing, but I was surprised at how much we restricted them, because it felt like just wave after wave, but wave after wave of possession and lots of passes and a couple of good saves from Raya, don't get me wrong. But
Donnarumma made more saves. And again, Partey offers more solidity there again, even on that. We restricted them as it was, and Partey adds to that again. Caveat, no more injuries against Bournemouth. Two other possible positives. I'm clutching at straws. Dembele went off with a muscle problem, but the word seems to be that it was more cramp than anything. Hopefully he plays at the weekend and gets injured for whoever they're playing. But anyway, they're not going for the invincible season now, so he probably won't. And the other one, Arsenal women, they went to France in the Champions League, their Champions League semi-final second leg with a goal deficit, and absolutely battered them 4-1, Lyon away, which is probably a bigger achievement than us going to PSG and winning. Lyon are the Real Madrid of the Women's Champions League.
Yeah.
So, if that's the way we're going to do it, that's the way we're going to do it. Anything else to say on PSG? It's half-time. That's it.
Half-time.
1-0 down half-time. You cannot be down and out there. Look, Arteta, we are going to have difficult moments in Paris. We've just got to deal with them. We had difficult moments in Real Madrid. We dealt with it and we came out on top. I just have this vision of that Martinelli goal in the Bernabeu replicated in Paris to put us through. So everyone's thinking extra time.
Just from a very personal point of view, selfish point of view, one of the main reasons I'm not looking forward to the second leg is because I'm not going. So I'm going to have to watch it on TV and listen to annoying commentators pore over micro decisions, talk about inane nonsense, and just generally spoil my enjoyment of the game. And that's not to dig at it could be any commentator, it could be any pundit, co-commentator. I just don't care. The reason I like going to games is because I hear the atmosphere and I get to shout. Watching it on telly, I find agonising.
And don't forget, the best bit, you're going to also have to experience our WhatsApp group.
God, yeah, and that.
We'll rue those missed chances.
For God's sake. Do you know what? I'm just going to mute. I might actually mute the conversation and just zone out.
Look. We'll have a little look forward to Bournemouth at the weekend. We're playing 5:30 kickoff at home. We do need another win in the league to secure Champions League qualification for next season. That might sound ridiculous, but we don't want to be considering Liverpool and Newcastle are the next two games. You could easily see 0 points there, and Southampton away on the final day of the season. Well, should be a win, but you just don't want to go into that game with any jeopardy at all, really, especially because we'll have a Champions League final to look forward to a couple of weeks afterwards. But anyway, Bournemouth, 5:30 kickoff Saturday. Let's just, I won't talk much about it. Let's get straight into the teams. Who do you think's going to play for us? This will be interesting.
Well, I've gone fairly bog standard and not made a huge amount of changes. I just wonder if he'll want some rhythm going into that game. So I think he might start with basically the same team. Raya in goal. But I'm going for about 4. I think the one change he might make, just because of a precautionary thing, would be Timber at right back out and White in. And then Saliba, Kivior, Miles Lewis-Skelly. Odegaard, Partey, Rice, Saka, Marino, Martinelli.
Okay, Chris is with the same kind of philosophy. He expects Arteta to start with the same team that will face PSG, with the exception of Timber at right back. So he's gone like you have. White, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, Partey, Rice, Saka, Marino, Martinelli. I've followed a very similar train of thought. I have put a question mark over Calafiori at left back, but I think he'll probably play Lewis Skelly there. I think he'll go strong.
So many left backs. Water everywhere and not a drop to drink, isn't it? left backs everywhere and not one to play.
Yeah. And score. What score do you? Well, let's do Chris's first. Chris says we'll win 2-0.
Yep.
And you?
I'm going a draw 1-1.
Draw 1. I'll say we'll win 3-0. I think there'll be a bit of a reaction to the game, to last night's game, and I think it'll be serious. I think we'll treat this game with a lot more energy than we would have had we not come out with a 1-0 defeat.
Because even Ipswich felt weird. The sending off, Ipswich weren't really up to much. They were defending, relatively deep. It was all a bit weird. Whereas Bournemouth are a proper side. They have tailed off. I think that's because they've just given out so much energy this year and done so well that it was naturally going to take a toll. They've had a lot of injuries as well.
But they've also got a shout of 8th spot could qualify for Europe depending on who wins what tournaments.
Yeah, I thought that involved Villa winning the Champions League but not qualifying in the league.
No, Villa can't win the FA Cup now. Maybe that was one of the things.
Right.
That was it.
There you go.
But United and Spurs aren't above them, so that wouldn't. But they'd take another Europa League spot, which no, they wouldn't.
We don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Someone worked it out, I think it was Rory Talks, worked it out that down as low as 10th could qualify for Europe, provided certain things happen. But Villa winning the FA Cup. Oh, Forest could win. No, they can't. Forest got knocked out as well, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope Crystal Palace win the FA Cup, by the way.
Oh, 100%.
Well, I did even before the semi-finals.
Yeah,
yes.
Same.
Yeah, but now I definitely do. Like, I don't think anybody other than it's a bit like, who was it? Wigan beat Man City in the FA Cup final way back, and like the entire country, bar Man City fans, wanted Wigan to win, which is completely understandable. Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we wrap it there? We'll have a post Bournemouth pre PSG podcast for you over Bank Holiday weekend at some point. In the meantime, enjoy the sun, if there is sun where you are listening. There is here in England in April. It's too hot for me already. Right. Thanks for the chat. I know you were well up for it.
It's just so exhausting.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy being an Arsenal fan, but it will be worth it come the 30th of May or 31st of May.
Fingers crossed.
Anyway, yeah, have a good one. See you on the other side. Be good. Take care. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app, and find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at NorthBankPod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company.